I said, quote, "We have an opportunity to help Montana realize our full potential. We must seize this opportunity and act. To do so will require leadership, but no one leader can do this alone. It will require all of us to work together." And we did. We worked together and we seized the opportunity. I'm proud to stand here with these outstanding legislative leaders who made this successful session possible. Senate President Mark Blaisdell, House Speaker Wiley Gault, Majority Leader Sue Vinton, President Pro Tem Jason Ellsworth, and Majority Leader Kerry Smith. They are dedicated public servants who work tirelessly, guided by their commitment to leave our state better than they found it. Over the past 4 months, we have accomplished a lot for the people of Montana. Together, we laid out, pursued, and fulfilled our ambitious and shared agenda. When we were sworn in on January 4th, there was uncertainty with the pandemic. I appreciate the commitment of these leaders to make sure the legislature didn't delay its session and immediately got to work. But we began our work under some of the most unique, challenging circumstances in our state's history. We moved forward working together and got the people's business done. Helping Montana recover from the pandemic has been my top priority, and I have appreciated working with the legislature to guide our state's recovery. We changed our state's response. We successfully focused on protecting the most vulnerable, putting them at the front of the line for vaccines, and it worked. Since January, hospitalizations and new cases have plummeted. We continue to make progress in getting vaccine to all who want it. We've also focused on getting our economy going again, returning to normal, and ending government overreach. We protected businesses from frivolous lawsuits. We ended arbitrary restrictions on business like hours of operation and capacity limits that were putting restaurants and bars out of business and employees out of work. We provided clear benchmarks, and when they were met, we ended the statewide mask mandate. We increased local elected officials' oversight of public health actions and in their communities. We prohibited so-called vaccine passports that undermine our personal privacy and threaten our liberty. We increased uptake of the COVID-19 vaccine. The light at the end of the tunnel continues to get brighter, and we're all getting back on a path to normal. We've made progress in combating the pandemic. We've also made progress to make Montana more competitive. We advanced our shared pro-jobs, pro-growth agenda. We cut the top income tax rate to 6.75 beginning next year and 6.5% in 2024, making us more competitive with our neighbors in the Rocky Mountain West. We tripled the business equipment exemption to $300,000, a move that will encourage businesses to invest in Montana. We created the Entrepreneur Magnet to encourage businesses to locate to and stay in Montana. Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juras is leading the Red Tape Relief Task Force to cut unnecessary regulations that burden Montana's small businesses, farmers, and ranches. Ultimately, we're creating an environment where Montana is more competitive, where businesses can grow, thrive, and create more good-paying Montana jobs. Not only are we encouraging businesses to invest in capital, but we're also encouraging businesses to invest in their people. We created the Montana Trades Education Credit, which will boost trades education by funding as many as 1,000 trade scholarships each year in Montana. I heard at a job site in Missoula just how critical this program will be to empower our workforce with in-demand skills. While we opened the door to move trades education, we also focused on providing greater education opportunities to Montana students. We gave local school districts flexibility to adopt innovative curriculum. We made it easier for parents to pursue the best education available for their kids. We provided incentives to boost starting teacher pay, which is unfortunately today in Montana the lowest in the entire country. Taken together, these efforts will pay dividends. Our kids will have greater opportunities to learn, thrive, and reach their full potential. We created new laws to increase Montanans' access to affordable, high-quality health care. We brought greater competition to the marketplace and greater choice for consumers by authorizing direct patient care agreements in our state for the first time. Last week, I saw the success of a direct patient care clinic in Billings, and I'm encouraged at the prospect as they expand across our great state. With unanimous bipartisan support, we expanded telehealth in Montana, increasing access to quality care throughout our state, but particularly in our more rural and frontier communities. But telehealth is not possible without a robust broadband infrastructure, and neither are online education opportunities for our kids, and neither is teleworking. That's why I'm proud of the investments we'll be making using federal funding to build out our broadband infrastructure. With $275 million in federal funds, we will get fiber in the ground and increase access to high-speed broadband to more of Montana so we can close this digital divide that holds so many back. We did all of this while holding the line on new spending, limiting its growth to less than 1% per year over the next biennium. Our Republican budget reduced spending by $145 million compared with the previous administration's budget proposal. Our fiscally responsible budget has a strong ending fund balance, and we preserved our state's rainy day fund. Our Republican budget cut taxes for Montanans by nearly $120 million. That's money that'll be back in our communities, helping us expand. And we simplified our complex tax structure for the first time in decades. Working together, we produced a balanced, conservative budget, all while protecting Montanans with tax relief and avoiding cuts to essential services. But it's not just about dollars and cents. We protected our Montana way of life as well. We made our state safer by banning sanctuary cities, cracking down on drug dealers, and helping those battling addiction recover. We strengthened the integrity of our election security laws, working to ensure Montana's elections are fair and free of fraud. We protected Montanans' right to freely exercise their religion. We've defended our Second Amendment rights by expanding concealed carry and prohibiting enforcement of federal gun laws. We've protected unborn babies with 3 critical pro-life measures. I also want to thank the Senate for confirming our state agency leaders. They've hit the ground running, changing how Helena does business, increasing accountability, and bringing a culture of customer service back to better serve all Montanans. I could go on, and I probably already have, but I'm filled with enthusiasm for Montana's future, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished together. And while the legislature has gavelled out, I'll continue working with these leaders and other lawmakers to build upon our accomplishments as we lead Montana's comeback. President Blaisdell, would you like to make a few comments?
Well, thank you and good afternoon. Governor Giannaforte, your staff, your dedicated directors, to my leadership team, Majority Leader Smith, President Pro Tem Ellsworth, and my colleagues in the House, Speaker Galt, Majority Leader Vinton, and President Pro Tem Knudsen. It has been an incredible honor to serve with these visionary leaders of like-minded, and I think we will all walk out of here with our heads held high of what we did this session. And these accomplishments will move Montana forward for many years to come. We have a very diverse caucus in our party, but I think at the end of the day, every single one of those members irregardless of whether they're big into the social issues, more into the business issues, conservation, tax policy and regulatory reform. We hit wins for each and every one of those members to go home and tell their constituents that they serve Montana and they made Montana a better place because of their leadership. We met with the governor on day one, and our first goal was to open Montana back up for business after a long time dealing with the COVID pandemic and giving those businesses the opportunities and the flexibility they needed and the reassurances to open back up. And I was proud that we worked together to get Senate Bill 65 to him as fast as we possibly could so he could make the changes he needed to. On bipartisan fashion, we passed numerous infrastructure bills. We collaborated on 632 for the ARPA funding. But we also did numerous things that are going to help businesses not have to look over their shoulders at what government may do to impede their businesses, but they can look forward in a visionary fashion of how they can expand in Montana. And I'm proud to serve with each and every one of them. And I look forward to the growth and what Governor Gianforte and his team does with the ideas and the bills that we brought forward and what he's able to produce and bring forward for the next legislative session for all those coming back to work with him again, Governor.
Thank you, President Blaisdell. Speaker Galt.
Thank you, Governor. It's great to be standing here with a unified Republican Party in the House, Senate, and Governor office for the first time in my history. The Governor and President Blaisdell did a great job recapping the policy session for the legislative session. We accomplished a lot in the last 80 days to position Montana to come back stronger than ever. And despite the attacks from some, we did it safely. Because of the policies that we enacted, Montana families, businesses, and individuals have more freedom to thrive. We gave $120 million back to the taxpayers and simplified our tax code. We gave more power back to the people in the legislative branch of government. We expanded individual rights and freedoms. We cut regulations. And we opened Montana back up for business. We also modernized our healthcare and education system. And thankfully, we have a governor who will sign these policies into law. In short, promises were kept. Montana is now a more competitive place to live, work, and raise a family because of it.
Thank you, Speaker. Would anybody else on the leadership team like to make any comments? Okay. And with that, we're happy to take some questions from the media.
I want to ask you about housing policy, particularly concerns about housing availability, housing in particular state. Do you think you get enough discussion to address that?
Yeah, so housing is a concern, particularly in some of our booming communities. I was really pleased working with the legislature. We signed into law a streamlining of subdivision permitting. This makes it easier to get a permit, and it will bring the cost of housing down. Yes.
Governor Zach Howe from Montana right now.
Hi, Zach.
First of all, you obviously have over 300 bills that are still either on your desk or waiting to get to your desk. Is there a timeline ideally for you that you wish to sign these bills by?
As soon as possible. We have to get caught up. Not all of them have been enrolled and transferred over to the governor's office, but we're working on a daily basis with our policy team, and we'll get to them and consider each one as we do our work on them.
And just to follow up on that, I asked this question for President Blaisdell a couple weeks ago, and I just want to ask you as well. With a couple of the bills, the transgender student athletes bill in particular, there's been concerns about retribution from organizations like the NCAA and other organizations that may use this bill as retribution against Montana. How concerned are you at this point of that being a reality in the state?
Well, this is an issue that evokes a lot of passion on both sides. I've met with transgender students. I've met with transgender parents. I've met with women athletes. We've been taking input from all sides of this. And again, we're still doing the work in the governor's office, but we will diligently review all the inputs and make the best decision for Montana. I think we'll take a question online. Okay, go back to the, okay, yes.
With the field one, this is a better question for Roberts, but I'm curious, now that we have ARPA shepherded through and we have all this money set aside for Montana, remember the director said we went to fiber in 160 days when we did that presentation. Just curious, like what kind of your timeline is for utilizing the broadband funding, what the actual end goal is, what were the quantifiable sort of distribution?
Sure, I'll make some general comments, and then maybe the speaker or the president would like to add something, or we have the broadband expert right here. I think we realized in conversations with the legislature that there wasn't enough time to appropriate all the funds, plus during the legislature being in session. The honest truth is we don't have all the rules out of Washington yet. So the money that came to us in the ARPA bill was broken into 4 buckets. Broadband is one of those buckets. The 632 creates a steering committee, it's bipartisan, House, Senate, and the governor's office. And we're getting those members nailed down, and we'll start meeting. Senator Ellsworth, would you like to make a comment?
So working on this bill throughout the entire session and working with the department, trying to see where best to serve Montana. So first, mapping is important. It's understand what do we have in the ground currently, where it's at, and then expanding upon that, looking at our what we call underserved, unserved, and frontier communities. And what we've done is actually created a bipartisan, neutral bill that is not based on any particular technology. So we're looking at every technology that's available out there, whether it be via satellite, radio being broadcast, fiber. Everything does eventually connect to fiber. I think people need to be cognizant of that. So fiber is important. It is not a ultimate. We're a big state. So to sit there and say that we're going to have fiber to everybody's residence, I think is unrealistic at this point. But from where we are now, which is last in the nation, and it's an unfortunate situation that the past 16 years, none of this has been addressed. And as the governor came in, this was one of his top priorities and tasked me to take on that priority. We've done that. We've set up the broadband infrastructure program that I think will get a lot of this done. There is no one answer for any individual. It's going to be a multitude of different technologies that will make this happen.
And a follow-up on the broadband is generally for 632. From whatever we last talked about, do you have any more information on what the capacity is in terms of labor and supplies to make some of these things happen?
So, I mean, if you look at, well, you've got to combine 632 with 297, so they go hand in hand. So you've got to look at both bills. As far as labor goes, I mean, this is what's amazing, is this is going to bring real jobs to Montana. As far as the funding goes, the funding mechanisms, I think there's some CARES money out there that can be incorporated into this program, and with the matches that can happen. So you could have a local government, you could have a school, and of course businesses, private businesses participating as well. When you start throwing all that into the mix and you say the starting point is 275 million, then I think we're going to be somewhere around 400, 450 when it's all said and done. So that is a significant improvement, and it's game changing for this state.
Thank you so much. And I would just add, the reason broadband is so important is so that our kids can come back home and work for Montana, so that we can deliver effective health care rurally using telemedicine, and so that our kids can learn digitally. So it's critical on so many levels. We'll go. Yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good deal. This is Catherine Houghton with Kaiser Healthcare. Sorry about that earlier. You think I would realize when I muted myself. But this question is for both the governor and Senator Blaisdell. There's been a slowing down of COVID vaccine demand in the state, and I was talking with a health officer in Flathead County who said he doesn't think enough people will get the vaccine to reach that ideal widespread immunity. So I'm wondering if both of you all can speak to whether that drop in demand is a concern, both from a state perspective, Governor, and Senator, from kind of your county's perspective.
Yeah, so thank you, Catherine. And these vaccines are safe and effective. I encourage Montanans to get one. That being said, we're not going to mandate vaccines for folks. We are seeing a softening in demand for the vaccine. That's why we're shifting our strategies. I continue to meet weekly with General Quinn and the whole DPHHS team. You've seen some of our ads on TV promoting them. I think the real key, though, at this point in our strategy is to make the vaccine more convenient for people. We'll be making some announcements over the course of the next week. What does that mean to be convenient? It means broadened distribution. We're starting to get vaccines out to doctors, so nobody has higher respect or more trust in their personal doctor, so you should be able to go to your local office. Availability through pharmacies is important. Many of the local pharmacies have become good partners here, and we have some innovative other things working with employers and other companies around the state to make these vaccines more accessible and more convenient, so the hurdle for someone to go get one is lower. Senator Blaisdell, if you.
Sure. Having the distinct honor to represent and serve the members of the Flathead Valley residents for 16 years and knocked on a lot of those doors. They're ruggedly individualistic and independent-minded individuals. And I appreciate the governor's work on this, of expanding those opportunities, of setting different areas for those vaccine rollout to get it to those that need it at most. And appreciate the top-down, not a top-down mandate approach on this, to let each individual decide on their individual health care decisions and how they wanted to view the vaccination at this time.
Okay, Holly? That's it. You can fight it out over there.
Governor, this is a question for you. Fresh off the news that Montana's getting a second congressional seat, the legislature passed a bill that would set some criteria for the districting and apportionment commission. I'm curious if you're supportive of that legislation.
Yeah, we're sorting through the hundreds of bills that got thrown over the transom in the last couple of days. Let me say that as we look at splitting the state into 2 districts for the U.S. House, those districts should be compact. We should focus on keeping communities together so that the seats are representative of the folks in those areas. We don't want gerrymandering here in Montana. I think it's your turn now, Holly.
Thank you. I have 2, I think both for you, Governor, Senator Gaylor, information about these. I'm wondering, as you're looking at, there was legislation in this session that changed your executive power in emergency, sort of, always raised concerns about that legislation. And then also with the ARPA bills, there's sort of a balance between legislators appropriated money, but then there's a bill for your office, like this, and sort of how you feel about on both of those issues, kind of where the balance of power is, you're comfortable with how things start?
Yeah, so Holly, it's a good question. This pandemic, unprecedented. We've never seen anything like it in our lifetime. And there were areas where we could have done better. And that's why I've been supportive of some of the ideas that have come out of the legislature for even curtailing some of the powers of the executive branch. There's others that I don't feel comfortable with. But 2 people don't agree on everything. I think reasonable minds, though, can sort that out. And I think we have and will. In terms of just repeat the second part of your question there.
The ARPA, there's a lot of provisions for, in some of the tax bills, that flexibility in case some of the money might be in question, and then also just with the commissions and your ability, projects not materialize.
Yeah, and the reason for this was caution. We know this is good policy for Montana, but we don't have the rules from Washington yet. And we didn't want to be in a situation with the legislature signing out and going home and then be constrained in some way that somehow didn't allow us to invest $275 million in broadband infrastructure. That would be a bad outcome for Montana. So we tried to take the necessary precautions in these bills. And again, we work collaboratively with the legislature to do that. President Blaisdell, do you want to add anything?
Holly, we spoke about this a little bit. A lot of these bills came from 9 to 10 months of legislators from March on hearing from their constituents the frustrations and so many barriers for us to be able to do anything, and just some of the heavy-handedness that we saw from the executive branch prior and even at the local level. But I give a lot of credit to the governor's office, to Lieutenant Governor Juris. They reached out to us as representatives and senators. They met with those individuals that carried the bills, and they were able to come up with common sense solutions that did not tie the hands of the local government or the governor's office to make decisions when they needed to, but also to be able to have the legislative branch inserted into that. And they did a great job of explaining ramifications on some of those pieces of legislation that probably weren't the best drafted at first, but I think we came up with a really good solution that all branches are involved in.
I'm wondering if you shared those concerns and what you would like to see come out of that commission's work.
Yeah, and that is an initiative of the legislature. The governor's office is not involved there. I did support Senate Bill 140. I think that's an improvement. It gives for public input in the selection of judges. The Senate still has to confirm them. They then have to stand for re-election. That's the way it should be. It's the way it is at our federal level. It's the way it is for every other appointed. And just to put this in context, our office has done now close to 700 appointments since January. It's a massive number, and yet the system was rigged in favor of the trial lawyers, and it needed to be changed, and we did. So we'll go online.
Hi, Governor Jean Forte. This is Maritza Georgia from NBC Montana.
Hi, Maritza.
I wanted to ask you about 702, and I'm wondering, have you had any conversations with the Montana Hospital Association and others concerned with what that means for them moving forward on vaccination requirements? And do you expect legal challenges for that?
Yeah, so 702 is a good piece of legislation. We've gotten input from all sides, hospital administrators, individuals, other concerned parties. And really what 702 says is that we're going to go back to the precautions we had in place prior to COVID, because we're moving out of this. And individual hospital administrators have told us that they can safely protect their patients and staff using the rules that were in place prior to the pandemic. That's what 702 does. Yes?
Governor Kevin Trumlin with Yellowstone Public Radio. Can you comment a bit more on the election reform bills that have come by your desk this session and why you think they'll benefit Montana?
Yeah, so it's important. I think we've always had secure elections in Montana, but there are concerns with some of the steps being taken by the Biden administration in a federal takeover of our elections. And it was necessary that we put in place some common sense precautions. Moving the same-day voter registration to an earlier time was important because we don't want to block access to voting. People can register at any time and receive an absentee ballot in the mail that's available to all Montanans. They can also go into the courthouse at any time for a month up until that day, register and then vote during the same visit. But when busloads of voters show up at the closing time on the day of election, it delays outcomes. It sometimes stresses the system in a way that doesn't allow us to ensure integrity. And there are so many areas of our communities where we have to provide an ID. It just makes sense. We want to know the people are voting are the people that they say they are. These are common sense reforms. We've seen them in many states, and they make sense for Montana as well.
Quick follow-up, are you worried that some of those laws can be overturned with some of the litigation we're seeing?
You know, people could do whatever they want. The reality is these are good reforms that'll make our elections more secure. Is there an online question?
Hi, Governor. It's Marisa again from NBC Montana. I wanted to also ask you about House Bill 637. I'm wondering if you have any comments on the sportsman groups and Montana senators asking you to veto this bill that would give more big game licenses to non-residents who hunt with an outfitter.
Again, this is one of the bills that's in process, and we haven't done all the work on it yet. But again, we're listening to all sides on this. It's important. As a sportsman myself, we do not want to disadvantage Montana residents in the access to sporting and fishing licenses, so that's really great. Unfortunately, even with all the enthusiasm, this is the time we have today for this conference. Thanks for being here, and thanks for your great coverage through this entire session. And once again, thank you for legislative leadership in getting so much done. We have a lot to take back to the people of Montana. Thanks for being here.